is Jackie DeLeon, and you're listening to Master of One podcast. You can find my work at jacquelinedeleon.com.
Welcome to another episode of the Master of One podcast, the podcast that's ready to get cultured, pop culture. Part 1 this week, we talk about the Nintendo Switch, the Fox in the Forest, and Game of Thrones theories. I'm Andrew, your Master of Art and Design.
I'm Patrick, your Master of Television and Film.
And I'm Luke, your Master of Toys and Games.
So get ready to battle for the Iron Throne, because this episode's about to get underway.
I have a dragon.
We like to kick every episode off by going around the table, which is where we talk about something new, fun, and noteworthy about our weeks. Luke, why don't you kick us off this week?
All right. This week, I finally got back into a show that we talked about. Man, I think it was maybe 2 years ago. We had initially talked about it when it came out, or maybe even longer than that. The show Ballers on HBO. It's a show with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, a host of other great actors. But he plays a former NFL player turned financial manager. And it's just kind of the story of him dealing with a couple key athletes are part of this world. And just the things that go into kind of building his brand, and he goes through like some personal stuff, and you see, as you learn the character more, you see some of this stuff come out. And season 3 came out. I missed it. It's in the 3rd episode of the 3rd season now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it started back, I guess it would have been like July, like early July or something. But yeah, I only watched the very first episode because I just found out about it yesterday. I saw it was like, they had on HBO, they had like catch up now before the season premieres. And I saw the date and I was like, oh wait, that's passed. It's on. So it's really good. I mean, the show. So here's the thing about the show. It's a little, I mean, it's larger than life. It reminds me a little bit of like, what's the show? I'm blanking. Ari Gold. What's the? Come on, guys.
I don't know what Ari Gold is, so I've got.
You don't know the character Ari Gold? Jeremy Piven plays him in.
Entourage.
Entourage, yeah. So it reminds me a little bit of that. Is as far as like, it's just a lot of like interpersonal drama and money drama. It feels like it's the NFL version of Entourage. But I still like it. And so, yeah, I don't know. Andrew, you watched it, and you seemed mad that you missed the opening of 3rd season. Patrick, had you watched it at all?
No, but I mean, I agree that it literally looks identical to Entourage with just, swole people with footballs. So it just, I don't know. It doesn't look terribly interesting to me. And I there's so many other things I'm trying to keep track with that I've just let myself not be concerned.
So I mean, for me, it's so much not part of my normal routine of things that's why I started watching it in the first place. And I love it. I love the story now. Like I'm attached to the characters. I want to see what happens. And it has made me really, really appreciate and respect, Dwayne Johnson as an actor. I really think he does a great job in this role. So I am attracted to it because it's so much different than the other stuff that I am a part of.
Yeah. So it's on. If you liked it, catch up. It's weekly, coming out every week. If you didn't like it, let us know. I want to know if you hated it and tell me why you hated it. If you haven't watched it, I don't care what you think because you don't have a reason to have an opinion on it. So,
it's fair.
But if you've watched it and hate it, tell me. But that's it, man. I mean, I have another thing, but we'll get into that for my category. Yeah, that's about it.
I'm just gonna
Yeah,
take
go
it.
for it, dude.
Can I just take it? Perfect. So I'm going to talk about two things. Number one is a shout out to my wife, Mrs. Mackenzie Hill, who's going to be on the Design Recharge show tomorrow. That's Wednesday at 2:30. So you can watch it live, and then I'm sure there's a way to see a replay, I guess. But this is with Diane Gibbs. We've talked to Diane Gibbs on the show before. We talked to her when we did our, I think it was our podcast panel. And then, of course, she is just a force of a person when you meet her at Creative South. She's one of the people
she's
that...
a very forceful person. She pushes people around. She's pushy.
No, she forces them into friendships with her and each other. That's what she does.
That's true.
She's just awesome. She's in the Slack community, so if you visit mof1podcast.com/Slack, you can talk with Diane. She's a wonderful person, but again... Wednesday, tomorrow, 2:30, you can listen to her talk to Mackenzie. That's very exciting. And the next thing, guys, I did go and I saw Dunkirk. I felt
about time.
a very, very strong obligation to do so. And let me just say, the film is it's great. I loved it. I mean, there's very little dialogue. It is a very brash, loud, sudden film. It is claustrophobic at times.
Yeah, like suddenly you're watching a film. Like all of a sudden the film is being watched. Is that what you mean?
More like
you weren't watching a film and then suddenly it's
someone's
there.
being shot and it's loud and I want to cover my ears. It's the funny thing is I actually know someone that had a panic attack during the film watching it. And I do understand it. I think if you're in a theater that is running the sound loud enough and you're sitting near the front, I can totally understand that it could be that jarring at times. I will say I did understand there was a chronology, like a time aspect. I will say that when the titles came on the screen, I did not understand that the time that was attached to the story was the amount of time the story took place over. So, like, you'll see...
That's the one title that threw me off, too. The first one says a week or something like that.
It says The Mole 1 week,
right.
And then you see The Air 1 hour. I thought that was like the amount of time it took them to cross the channel or something like that. Like, that's what I had in my mind. And then afterwards, and literally, I didn't even realize it at all in the film. Afterwards, I was reading and someone mentioned it, that is actually referring to the length of time that story arc is taking place. So just so you know, that's a helpful piece of information. If you haven't seen the film, go see it. Keep that in mind. That being said, I just really, really enjoyed it. Cillian Murphy and Tom Hardy.
Can we talk a little bit more about it, or are we going to still stay hands off a little bit?
No, I think you can. I mean, it's literally based on an actual war that's already taking place, so I think absolutely.
What did you think of our fantastical pilot?
Tom Hardy?
Yeah.
What did you not like? You are setting this up that you didn't like something.
Let me explain my tone.
He thinks it's too. He was too.
He was too amazing.
Superhero-y.
It felt he pulled me out of the story because it felt like there was a point in his story where I realized he will not fail, and so it was like, this seems crazy.
So actually, it depends on when in the war it was. So. Yeah, I believe what was said is that one of the things that the I don't want to get this wrong. The Luftwaffe was really bad about taking their star, like their really like ace pilots, and keeping them in the battle, and instead of doing what some of the other militaries were doing, which was taking their fighter aces and moving them back to train the up-and-coming pilots.
Okay.
And so actually, as we got farther in the war, the Luftwaffe actually started falling behind in how long their pilots would last, because ultimately these aces were being used. They were obviously getting killed.
Sure.
And then the pilots coming up behind them weren't nearly the same level and didn't have nearly the training. And so that part of Germany's force did actually start deteriorating compared to some of the other forces as we got farther into the war. So I don't know how far into the war this battle was when it took place, but I will say it is not far-fetched to believe that a British pilot could be that far superior to some of the German pilots. That it actually is not a crazy idea because of their training practices they use. It is really coincidental that you asked that question the same day I read the article about what I'm talking about right now. But so apparently that was
I'm
actually
glad you read
common
it because it makes me feel a lot better. Because that was the one part of the movie that it just kind of pulled me out of the story a little bit because it was just
he was just
great.
The absolute contrast to the one freaking dude that every boat he got on sank. Oh,
he's like the Jessica Fletcher of this film. Like if everywhere she gets invited to, someone dies. You'd think eventually they'd stop letting him on boats and they'd stop inviting her to dinner parties.
Oh my gosh! And then listen, this guy is like the just comedy of errors. Comedy's not the word. And then you have the other dude that apparently was just like asleep on the pier.
Yeah.
And then just like woke up and jumped on a boat and took off. Like, man, obviously, dude just needed to calm down, wait it out. He was fine. You know, I will say something that's really crazy. I encourage anybody that enjoys the movie to go read about the Battle of Dunkirk. It turns out one of the big reasons that so many soldiers lived was that Hitler actually ordered German troops to stop marching forward. So Germany actually had the opportunity to potentially kill a large number of the 4,000 people on the beach, even though the Air Force...
from the city to the beach?
Yeah.
Yes, but actually they were given an order to halt, and that order stayed for 3 days before Hitler lifted that order. And that was 3 days that allowed them to evacuate. I think it was like 330,000 people. And if Germany had continued marching forward, it's very likely it would have been a much more grim situation. So actually, it ended up being pretty amazing. Just kind of like that tactical turn of events. The Luftwaffe was allowed to continue attacking, but that being said, they actually encountered some bad weather, and a lot of them were grounded. And so again, it gave British and French forces the opportunity to escape in large numbers. Where if Germany had continued marching forward, again, it would have been a totally different story potentially. So many people consider that one of the most strongly debated decisions in the war, and then also one of the turning points in the war. So very interesting story worth reading more about. But I love the film. I absolutely love the film. I will say I probably loved it more for the cinematic part than necessarily like story arcs. I did find myself just kind of like feasting on the audible and eye candy. And with, less compelling visuals, I do not think I would have liked it nearly as much as I did, which I think maybe points to the story being a bit, or the arcs being a bit lacking, but I still loved the film. So, that's it for me. Andrew, you can finish this up.
All right, so I'm gonna run through this stuff really quickly because I have a ton of stuff that I need to share that's happened this week. So I've got first and foremost, I was finally framing up a piece that I Am Redicus, Doc Redicus sent me, and I had filed it away when I was initially setting up my studio, and stumbled across it. I had forgotten that he had sent this to me when I was resetting up my studio a couple weeks ago. So I got a frame for it, and as I was trying to get it in the frame, I sliced my finger terribly, like to the point where I probably needed stitches, but what I did instead was I super glued it and did my own triage, and I was home by myself, and it was one of those situations where, when you cut yourself, you look down and you wait those 30 seconds to see if the blood kind of raises to the top. Like, it's cut, you think it's going to bleed, but you're not 100% sure. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, this was the opposite of that. This was, I cut my
just
finger and I
gush.
went, but I looked down. By the time I looked down, the blood was dripping off of my hand, just pouring out. It got on the print. Fortunately, the print was backwards, so it bled on the back of the print, and it was bad. So anyway, I now have plenty of good reasons to give the finger to all sorts of people just to show them that I'm cut. It's you.
Was it like?
Well, I just see a Band-Aid.
Was it the skin super glue stuff, or was this
No. This
like
is
just
glue.
glue?
This is Tackle Box super glue. And we're just gonna see how it goes. It probably won't heal pretty. I mean, it the way that it cut, it's pretty gnarly, and it went deep enough. So
was it on the tab on the frame?
it was on the
did
tab
it just
on the
puncture.
Yeah, it
So it didn't-
punctured in and then slid all the way down from tip of my finger to my first knuckle.
I don't like this. I don't like.
You don't
this.
like it? I'm sorry.
It's
But,
way. It's less. It's
How
not
did
as
that
bad
happen?
for you.
Like, how?
So okay,
He's
so
got weak
you know,
skin.
the plastic on the back, or the plastic that they wrap
Yeah.
the frame in. I was just
Yeah.
trying to push my hand through it because that typically works instead of like cutting it and then peeling it. So I was pushing my hand
Yeah.
on it, and then the plastic broke, which is good, which is what I wanted. But my hand went in at such an angle and so much force that the little tab that you fold up to take the backing out and put the print in, it just went
I'm gonna
straight
throw
in.
up.
So anyway,
I'm gonna throw
you can
up.
go to my Instagram and see a photo of it after it's been cleaned, mind you. I did not post the incredibly bloody paper towels that happened when it first happened. So
I want to see that
I didn't
picture.
take a picture of it. Sorry, I was too busy trying not to faint because again,
Well, I made a
it
mental
was-
picture, and
it was
it's
me
crazy.
and Cooper was here, but Chandra was not here, and so I'm yelling down to him, buddy, I need you to bring me some paper towels. So anyway, and then he's like, Dad, look at this thing on Minecraft. I'm like, I can't. I'm gonna throw up right now. But so that happened. The artwork is hung now. It looks great. I sent Doc photos of everything that transpired, and so at least now he knows that I have bled on his work.
To not send you anything
thanks,
anymore?
Thanks for nothing. But I got a ton of stuff, and so I'm going to run through this. It's going to be pretty rapid fire. I'm not going to go into great detail on any of this stuff, but go to the show notes if you want to see this stuff or if you want to buy any of this stuff. So several months ago, maybe even a year ago, Luke talked about Troll Hunters, the TV show on Netflix. It's Guillermo del Toro, and it's based on the characters that he created for this book. So I started watching the show. Finally, I had it on my list. Finally started watching it. I have fallen in love with it, so much so that I got the book. So the book came in the mail today. Troll
Nice.
Hunters. It's by Guillermo del Toro and Daniel Kraus. So I'm going to read this book. I'm excited to see how it compares to the show. I got another book. I talked about the first two at some point along the way. Go back somewhere in the archives. But the Star Wars Aftermath series, the third one, has been out for a little while, but I had never picked it up because for whatever, I just forgot about it. So I picked it up. I've been listening to it, and then I always get the hard copy so I can read along with it because it helps me stay. It helps me kind of hear it and see it. Helps it stay. But this book is really good. Like I'm about 12 chapters in, and oh my gosh, it starts to really paint the picture. At this point in the book, Leia is pregnant with Ben, like very, very pregnant with Ben. And we just met Jar Jar Binks, like an old Jar Jar Binks.
You mean
So
Snoke?
we'll see kind of what happens. No, but Snap Wexley, Snap Wexley from Force Awakens. We finally get it.
Yeah.
We realize we get introduced to that name, but we realize that he's been a character in the whole series, and he gets his nickname in this one, so we know who that is now, like a backstory to that. I'm really, really excited. This takes place right before The Force Awakens. They're getting ready to release, and I already pre-ordered the books that are lead up to The Last Jedi. So I hope that this all starts to paint a picture. Like I got one that's called Captain Phasma, or I think it's just called Phasma. And then I got the new one that's kind of the bridge story between. And then I ordered one that's all about Luke and these untold stories of Luke that will help bridge the gap between
And this is all
This is all
canon,
canon,
right?
Yeah, this is all part of the official canon.
Nice.
So, anyway, it's really, really good. I would say go pick it up if you're into Star Wars. What else? Okay, so I went to a store or a gallery showing this week in San Antonio with a couple friends, and this was all local artists, and I was blown away by the kind of art that was there. I bought 3 different pieces of art while I was there. I'm going to show them to you quickly. Tell you who the artists are, and like I said, go look at the episode artwork. So first, I got this piece, which is super cool. The artist's name is Justin Black, or Chase Black. I don't know, Justin Chase Black. But can you see it? It's 11 with
That's
the
cool.
Demogorgon in it.
Gosh. But it's like pink.
The Demogorgon is bright pink. But if you can see,
It's like silhouetted.
if you can
shadow
see,
paint.
I'm going to try to hold it close. It's not
Is it watercolor?
but it's well, maybe the original was, but this is a print of that. But it's very Drew Struzan-esque or like Paul Shipper. Do you see like the hatch work and stuff?
Sure.
The likeness is killer. So I had to pick that up. It's great. I think you can buy that on his website. Then this other one is a fun take on Adventure Time. And here's Finn from Adventure Time. The colors are very bright and fun. It's simplistic in execution, but very charactered.
Is that based off an episode?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just his.
I don't recognize that face or anything.
It's his characterization of it. So, like, if you look, he has a very specific style.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
very specific
his style,
And his
the artist's
name
style?
is
All right, I
Rigo. Rigo Ortiz. So go check that out if you want to see it. It's very cool, very fun. The colors are great. And then this one is this one's ridiculous. I'm going to try to show you if you can see. It's an owl. Yeah,
That
it's
one's
an
a hoot.
owl, and this is you can't really tell in the video, but it's hand screen printed, and it's got split fountains and transparent inks that are just beautiful. The colors are. This guy is actually from Austin. His website is Biscuit Press, and his name is Dan Grisson. He's done some incredible work with some amazing bands, but on top of that, this piece of the owl is just stunning, and I had to pick it up. He's a cool dude, and he's good friends with Jay Ryan and some of the other Mondo people and everything. But holy cow, like, this artwork is fantastic. And then finally, I finally watched The Fantastic Mr. Fox. So it's been.
Whoa! Wait a second. How did you miss that?
Missed it. It's never been on anything. Like, it's not like it was hard to find in the stores to find like a copy of it, and then it's never been on like Netflix or HBO when I've had HBO or Hulu or anything like that. So it's never been in my mind. But lately,
What he meant to say is what the cuss.
But what I've been doing a lot lately is watching films on iTunes and just renting them on iTunes. And it dawned on me, I've never seen Fantastic Mr. Fox. I was looking for something to watch the other day, so I watched it. So watched it, loved it, and like just the art direction and the visual of it and everything, and the story is fun. And obviously, we're talking about the Wes Anderson, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, based on the Roald Dahl book. And I remembered that Tyler Stout had done a print for The Fantastic Mr. Fox last year sometime. And so I went online and went on eBay and found one and bid on it, and I won it. So I'm super excited. In the next few days, I will be framing up my Tyler Stout Fantastic Mr. Fox piece, which is stunningly beautiful. The colors are crazy, and all the characterizations are really, really cool. And
did you get the orange?
I got the orange because I couldn't
blue?
afford the variant blue. I like the blue a little bit better as far as like the colorways, but it was twice as much, and I couldn't pull that off. But
Sure.
I love it. It's going to be a fun addition to some of the other really colorful artwork that we have downstairs now. We kind of redid all of the artwork and shuffled things around. So when you guys come, you'll see it. It looks a lot different now. But So anyway, that's a lot to kind of throw at you, but man, it's been a good week in terms of getting great, cool stuff. So I think that's going to be it for my Around the Table. Up next, we're going to master the categories. The master category section of every week is when we get to talk about the tokens we drew the week before. We pick our topics based on those tokens. That's how it works. Patrick, should we finish with you because you're going to have some spoiler stuff?
Yeah, because people are going to need to like turn off their episodes.
So
we'll come
actually,
back
what we'll probably do is run through all of our like end credit stuff before yours, and then we'll end with Patrick's category. We're going to change it up a little bit this week because we know how people are with Game of Thrones. All right, Luke, why don't you kick us off then?
All right, so I have art and design, and I got a Switch this week. I found a Switch, the last one on the shelf at Target, and the guy said that it actually had been sitting there for about 3 days, which was amazing.
What?
So, yeah, we picked it up, and it's awesome. Like it's a really cool console. Now, I want to talk a little bit, since I have art and design, I want to talk a little bit about the actual design of the console itself. So I've had all of about 24 hours with this thing, and I have some things I love and I have some complaints. So first of all, the things I love is the screen is gorgeous. The screen is amazing to sit and play a game. It's not too strenuous on your eyes. It's big enough that you can comfortably stare at it for a couple hours and not need to walk away or put it in the dock to see it on the TV. Also, docking it to your TV is seamless and it works perfectly. It's a slight hesitation, which is forgivable, but I wish it was a little faster, but it's fine. The one I got was the gray.
Wait, you wish it was faster?
Yeah, I wish.
I mean, it's within a second.
Not quite, but it's close.
All right, that's been my okay. I was gonna say like that's pretty considering all things considered. I'm like that. Like, would you put it in by the time like after I've set it in the dock and I've stepped back to actually see the TV? It's up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's not. I don't know. Maybe it's my TV refresh. I don't know. Our TV's decent, but
sorry,
it could be that.
I'm not trying to overtake.
No.
I'm just like, because for me, I've always had like, this is like instantaneous.
Yeah, it works
for me.
very well. I got the gray one. I there wasn't the red and the blue. But I think I want to get the yellow Joy-Cons to go with the gray. So I think that I'm fine with that. But the design of that, even just the colored gray they picked to pair with the screen, and then just the material and the finish they use for the plastic is very comfortable. It feels like, I don't know, it's a very hard plastic because it's durable, but it doesn't feel like plasticky. I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but that's the best way I know how to describe it. The sound quality is actually surprisingly good coming from the unit itself. The way the game card port, the volume, the power button, the kickstand on the back is a nice little added feature. So all of that design aesthetic wise, it makes a lot of sense. Now, the things that I don't quite get or I'm still getting used to that I don't love yet, the way the Joy-Cons come off of the game screen. I think they place the button down right behind the bumper that you press down to slide the Joy-Con out. I think they put it there to be out of the way for when you're playing, but to me it's a little hard to press it without pressing any other buttons. And I wish they would have maybe done a recessed button in the middle or something that you could press while you're holding on to the Joy-Con. Maybe pressed it somewhere else as you're grabbing to slide it out. That's one thing I don't love. I wish they would have made. I like the design of the piece that slides on to be able to put the Joy-Con as a singular controller. Again, to take that piece off though, is that button is a little harder to use, and then the lock system that kind of locks it on there. It's hard to tell when it is locked and isn't locked, and it actually feels like that'll break eventually and won't stay on. I wish they would have maybe just designed a way that you could just use the buttons here without having to put that piece on.
Right, it's not comfortable.
I know, it's just not, it's not great. Sure. What else here? So how it works out when you take the Joy-Cons apart, and you're using two controllers, the button layout isn't quite the same. It's slightly askew for one person if you're used to the other controller. So, like for instance, the boys, we got ARMS, and so they're playing ARMS. And if they walk away, or if you start the game up and don't pair the same controllers in the same spot, then you're having to use it's a slightly different hand position for each Joy-Con. And that is, again, I understand why they did it, because when it fits together on the game screen, it works and it feels ergonomically correct when you're playing the game. But as two separate Joy-Cons, it feels a little clunky as far as design and how to get used to that. You essentially have to learn two controllers and two kind of hand comfort positions to be able to move seamlessly between them when you're playing with other people. And I think that's a little stupid. But man, other than that, I'm really liking it. I'm excited for more games to come out. I'm not, and we talked about this a little bit when you first got it. And I was saying I wasn't necessarily into getting it right away. And I'm glad I held off, because there's Zelda. I got Goner, which Goner, I'll say it again, is one of the best games I've played in a long time for any system. It's this weird, just platformer. You play this little blob and you're shooting a gun, and it's procedurally generated levels. It's so fun. It's $10, but we have that in ARMS, and those are both great. I want to play Zelda. The boys want Splatoon, but other than that, like I played Bomberman. It was okay. I played. There's like a cut up game where you cut paper shapes and mix them together.
Snipper clips.
Snippet. I didn't love it. Snipper clips. Yeah. I didn't love it. So I'm ready for more games to come out. I'm ready to see more stuff that's maybe more in line with Zelda. I know Skyrim's coming out for it eventually. That'll be interesting to see that on a portable device. That's just my general kind of like peek into the actual design of the console itself. It's cool. It's very, very, very good for a mobile gaming device. For just a console, like hook up your TV, I think the controller, when you click the Joy-Cons into this thing, this big controller, it feels really strange as a controller. It's not quite worse than the Steam controller, but it's almost there. And the Steam controller is pretty bad. But yeah, I think the Switch is awesome. To be able to carry around a full powered console in your hand is amazing. But if you're looking for something to like rival a console like a Xbox One, PS4, or a PC, it's just it's not going to happen. So, but yeah, it's awesome. I know Patrick, you're fairly new to one.
I like the console. My only gripe is that the controllers feel like they could almost break off the sides of it. They feel like that connection feels a bit weak. Sure. It doesn't feel like super locked in.
Wiggle slightly.
And some of the things you said about like some of the button positioning and stuff. But that being said, like, I love the console. I think the way it connects to the TV and all that kind of stuff is awesome. And I've enjoyed it. At first it was kind of weird having this thing that all it does is games. Like I can't message people on it, and I can't watch movies on it, and I can't do all this stuff. And then I started feeling like there's something really great about that. There's something great about if I'm using this thing that nothing can distract me from just enjoying a game. And I like that idea a lot. And I'm hoping that it stays that like pure experience of if I'm playing a game, the world cannot get to me. I'm just going to play this game. So I think it is.
Sure. There's like no notifications that you would get with your like.
To me, it's way superior as far as an experience to, again, like using something like your phone. Even if you're, in some cases your phone is capable of running similar games or something, or if you feel like your phone screen resolution is better. I mean, I know with the new iPhones we're going to get, OLED displays made by LG that are, whatever. And it's going to be easy to look at that and feel like, man, I have this super sharp display and my Switch doesn't live up to that. The Switch is so superior of an experience. So, yeah.
Well, but there's also having buttons, actual buttons to press makes a huge difference for gaming.
I hope that we keep the pure gaming experience.
Yep. All right, you're going to toss it to me then, I'm guessing, right? And we'll end. Okay. So I got toys and games yet again, and I'm excited because I got a new game, and this has been fantastic. So this game is called. A lot of times we talk about games that are multiplayer, right? Like lots of 3 to 10 players, at least. This game is different. This is a game that's specifically designed for 2 players, and it's a game called The Fox and the Forest.
I love that you described it as being fantastic. Especially given the prior.
Yeah, I didn't. That was Freudian, I guess. But the game is fantastic. So it's called The Fox in the Forest. The artwork, as you can tell, I mean, at this point, it's going to be a given. If I'm talking about it, it's probably really good. But you see that? I mean, it's just beautifully painted artwork on the front.
Now,
of the box.
Is that a fox?
That is a fox, and he's in a forest. It's a very literal game.
It's pretty on the nose with the artwork.
Much like the game I talked about last week, which if you didn't listen, go back and listen. Oh, Captain! This has an origin story, and much like the game last week, it has the story is printed inside the box, so it's got the thing that lays itself out, and what draws me to this game is it's not specifically like a crazy game in the sense that it's like otherworldly or weirdly mechanical. The mechanics are very simple. It's a trick-taking game. So anything, if you're familiar with trick-taking games, it's, when somebody has you play multiple hands and a person can win that trick, and at the end of the game, you add up how many tricks you win based on the hierarchy of the card structure, and then you win the game. That's essentially the function of the game. But what I like about this, there's some different things about it. It feels very. It's based on a traditional folk story, like a fairy tale. And it refers you back to that. You can go to their website and you can read the original story that this is part of. But what I like more about it than that is, here's what the cards look like, if you can tell. There are numbers, but then there are cards. So this is a swan, and there's the fox. Each deck, there are 3 different deck structures inside of the cards. And all of the odd numbers are specialty cards. So there's the swan, there's the fox, there's the woodcutter, there's the treasure, the witch, the monarch. All right, so that each deck, each of the 3 decks has that structure, but each one has different artwork to it. And what's cool about it, each of those has a special ability that coincides with them when you play them. So there's the normal structure of the number, but then there's also the ability that takes place. And there's obviously a reference card, so you always know what to do. But here's what's cool: the point structure, the scoring structure at the end, instead of it just being the person with the most tricks wins. The way that they break it down is really interesting. From 0 to 3 tricks, you get 6 points. All right. And they call that, the description for that is called humble. 4 tricks. If you take 4 tricks out of the 13, there will be 13 tricks total in each round. 4 tricks, you get 1 point. 5 tricks, you get 2. 6 tricks, you get 3. 7 to 9 tricks, you get 6, and that means you're victorious. If you take all the tricks, 10 to 13 tricks, you get 0 points, and the description is greedy. And the idea is that it's much like a villain in a traditional fairy tale where when they try to take too much, that's when they ultimately find their demise. And so it's a really interesting point structure. And it's the first person at the end of a round where they get 21 points or more. The first person to 21 points wins. If there's a tie at the end of that round, when they both get to 21, then the person who scored the most points in that last round, they're the ones who win.
So their strategy is if you see somebody's taking a lot of tricks, you want to get them more so that they don't get any points.
So the way that you tally the points, there are these little tokens that they come with that make it really easy to tally the points as opposed to having to have a I love the game Niet, and I've talked about it several times on the show. But one of the things I don't like about that game is that it has everything, and it's beautiful, and it's great, and the pieces are high quality, but you still have to tally your points on like a scrap piece of paper. Call me first world, call me, whatever, really pretentious. But if you're gonna do something and require something
Andrew,
of a game, just put
the
way to do that inside the game and just make it all packaged together. So this does that. Anyway, the cards are beautiful. The artwork is beautiful. The gameplay is rather simple, but it's unique. So I would say if you're a fan of trick taking games, beautiful games, or a quick game you can play with one other person, this is it.
Do you like this better than Yet?
It's a totally different kind of play. There are some elements I like better about it. And then there's some elements that I think Niet functions a lot more like the traditional like Spades or something like that, but then you have the added sense of communism.
Well, it's kind of like Niet is like Spades other than minus the first round. The first round of like doing all of your modifiers.
Yeah.
But once that's set, the rest of the game does play just like Spades.
Well, kind of, because you change that every round. That changes every round. It doesn't stay the whole time. But yeah.
Well, I know in the sense
yeah,
that
besides that, the game play and function.
You still have a trump class. You're still trying to bid for the amount you're going to get.
Yeah, and the way that this works, the trump class is described as being the decreed type. So it's a decree put down from, the king or whatever. There's actually 33 cards. Yeah, 33 cards in the deck. You only play with 13 each, and then you set aside the other 7 as the draw deck. And whenever there's cards that allow you to change the decree card, and you flip over a new one. So that's how that works. So so I wouldn't say I like it more or less than Niet. It's a different kind of game, but if you can play Niet, you would play this, really well. So that's it for my category. What we'll do is it's going to be different for us. If this is your first time joining us, first of all, hi. Second of all, this isn't typically how we do things, but because the next topic is going to be so sensitive, we're going to run through all the end credit stuff now, and then we'll pull in Patrick's category on the tail side of this because we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones. So you can find out all the stuff that we've talked about thus far in this episode at mof1podcast.com for show notes and links. You can subscribe on iTunes, where we'll come twice a week, every week. The episode this Thursday release with our Sandbox interview is going to be incredible. It's JP Boneyard from the National Poster Retrospecticus. It's going to be a great time. So if you haven't already subscribed, go to iTunes now and do that so you don't miss out. Once you're there, Patrick, what can you do?
That's right. You're going to want to rate and review the show. Let us know how you feel. I mean, and I'll say this, a big shout to everybody. We have 50 5-star ratings on iTunes, and we love that. We have 40 reviews currently. But here's the thing. We want more. It helps us. It helps people find us, and then we want the feedback. I mean, this is what allows us to tailor the show to what you love. So tell us how you feel. We will read your feedback on the air, unless that terrifies you. In which case, just put in like little parentheses. Hey, don't read this on air. Then we won't. But yeah, rate and review. And then also on Slack, mof1podcast.com/Slack, we have a channel called M of One Real Talk. And that's where you can also tell us how you feel about the show, what you like to see. So
yeah. And other than that, find us all over the socials. Just search M of One Podcast. Okay, Patrick, that's it. We are. This whole next section is going to be spoilers, because Patrick is going to give us some of his fan theories about Game of Thrones. So if you are not caught up as of the
leave.
The third episode of season whatever the heck we're in at this point, 7. You're probably going to want to bypass this and come back after you've watched it. So be warned, we are officially in that. Okay, Patrick, take it away.
Yeah, and again, more than spoilers, this is also going to be fan theory. So this is something that got me really excited. I was thinking about this morning, and it's something I want to share with you guys and get your opinion on, see if it had crossed your mind. But even though the show has not told us, HBO actually released an infographic showing us that Jon Snow's father is Rhaegar Targaryen. So we know Jon Snow has a Targaryen for father, and then Lyanna Stark is his mother. Right now, Daenerys is under the impression that she's the last surviving Targaryen. Jon Snow does not know his heritage.
Right.
Bran is presumably knows and is trying to talk with him, but they're separated by a little bit of a distance and maybe some ability to walk. And
by only like a day or so, though. I mean, like
apparently, it is fast travel is apparently a thing, because from episode 2 to episode 3, some people freaking they moved.
They did.
But that being said, Jon Snow is a Targaryen. So we also have had a bit of, in this episode, in episode 3, Daenerys really wanted to jump on a dragon and take off and just go destroy Euron's fleet. Yeah, exactly. And she had to be told, hey, I mean, you arrow catches you and you're done, and you're too important for that. So we're starting to get this idea that she may be a bit sure of herself, maybe overly sure of herself. And again, Daenerys likes to talk a lot about these things that have never happened until she was there. The people from Meereen had never crossed the ocean, and people said there weren't dragons. There were dragons, all these kind of things. And at the same time, she also wants to doubt some of the things that Jon is telling her and things like that. So she's very quick to point out the things that never happened till she was there, and maybe she's forgetting the possibility of things being bigger than she is. I say all this to say I do not believe Daenerys is going to be the person that rules over the 7 kingdoms. I actually believe that's going to be Jon Snow. I think Jon Snow is going to be the last surviving Targaryen, and I think that the prophecy is about him. Another piece of this, in episode 2, they called into question the prophecy, what it meant, and someone made it a point to bring up, well, the prophecy said he, but it wasn't used in a gender-specific context. I don't think they use that terminology, but that's basically what they said. But the point is, they're already calling that the prophecy, and does it really apply to Daenerys? They've already begun calling that into question this season. And so that's my thought. My thought is that we're going to see Daenerys get captured and or killed by Cersei. That Cersei's going to be successful with this dragon killer that she's building. And I think that Jon is going to be found out to actually be Targaryen, and it not just only be Daenerys. And I think that Jon is going to be the person that in actuality ends up ruling over the kingdoms. And who knows, maybe makes Sansa the Warden of the North when this becomes the case. But those are my thoughts, and I would love to hear where you're at on that and how you feel.
Yeah, okay, so this is going to jump maybe not to fan theory as much as it is fan hope. Maybe a little bit of theory. So I don't think you're entirely wrong. But here's my thought. Here's my take on that. I think, and I was dialoguing about this the other day after we watched it on our way to Austin, actually, to go to that show, is that my hope is that the final scene, the close, at the close of this whole thing, when we won't see the characters anymore, the final thing that they'll leave us with, I believe it will be Daenerys and Jon Snow sitting side by side as king and respective queen of the Seven Kingdoms, and that they would rule together, and that to their right and to their left would be Tyrion at the right hand and the Hound at the left hand. And I think here's why I think the Hound. Here's why I think the Hound.
That one really throws me off.
Just listen. Just everyone just calm down. I know that that's not necessarily a very popular theory, but also it's not very popular. My feelings about Arya are not very popular. I hate her. I can't wait for her to get her head cut off. That's I hate her.
Wow.
I hate her.
Arya might be the one that takes out Cersei. I don't know what you're talking about. No, actually, I did hear someone say that they think Arya is going to be the end to Littlefinger, but go ahead.
So here's what my thought is. Here's where this comes from. So Arya's going to die. I know Arya's going to die. They've already alluded to it.
When?
So as I was talking with, so a lot of the stuff you miss unless you have read the books, right? And I have not read the books, but fortunately,
yeah, but this
I understand.
This whole
Just
season
listen.
is not in the books.
Just listen.
All right.
You guys are getting all hot and heavy. Just wait.
I'm waiting for you to quit telling us to listen and actually say what you're going to say, because you're telling me to listen a lot and not saying anything.
He being the author, alluded to her death initially when Jon Snow and her were talking when they were back together before all hell broke loose, and said essentially alluded to her dying. You will die in the winter or in the snow. You will die in the snow with a needle in your hand. Essentially saying that she, alluding to joking of the fact that she was a bad seamstress. Well, then later on, he gives her she gets the sword and then names it Needle. So the allusion there being that she will die in battle in the winter with gripping a needle in her hand, and that will be a thing. So I think she's going to die. I hope she does. I do not like her, and
Why?
I think I've said it before on the show, but I will say it again for all of those who are new and listening and are upset with me. I think she did the Hound dirty when he was just asking for mercy and said, go ahead and take one of the names off your list and and put me out of my misery. And she walks away cold-hearted, doesn't kill this man who is suffering. And I think that for me, it turned me off to her completely. It's like, why didn't she end him? Their relationship, tumultuous as it was at times because he kidnapped her, right? I felt like he redeemed that with her. I felt like the relationship that they had come to have together surpassed that. And when given the opportunity to help this man who eventually did help her out and became so close to her, to help him by ending his life because he was pain and suffering, she walked away to let him suffer. And I thought that was...
How does Clegane end up beside... So he then comes back, right? So he made his triumphal return. And I say triumphal in the sense that as soon as they panned up from the guy who was chopping the wood and I saw that it was the Hound, I cheered in the room, because I was so happy.
Why do you like him so much?
Because I think he is a man who is on the path to redemption. And I felt like it got cut short by a really obnoxious little tween. That was my opinion about it.
See,
and
you
to
could
see him come back...
Here's my as feeling. Arya not being able to bring herself to kill him because she now has a respect for him, and therefore
she
walked away.
Can. I never thought of it that way. So the person that I was talking to who's read all the books, he gave me that perspective, and I thought, oh, that's good. And so here's my thought. My thought is, he's alive now. That redemption can come back full circle. And I haven't written Arya off in the sense that I think when they do reconnect, because I think they will, I think there will be a redemption there, and that will, at least in some ways, make me feel better about Arya. But here's my thought. they're all going to convene at some point. They're all going to come together at some point. And I think him standing next to these other people who he so adamantly fought against is, for me, the ultimate, like the pinnacle of his redemption story. And that's why I want to see it. Not because I think it's going to happen or that it's alluding to that happening, because this is where like the fan hope comes into play. I think that would be so awesome to end this thing out and be like, man, look how far that guy has come. Not only is he still alive after all he's been through and after, you know, how this show goes, but on top of that, he has made himself, he's done a complete 180. And I think that would be a really, really cool redemption story. So that's where
they're gonna meet soon, because Arya's headed to Winterfell to meet up with Sansa and Bran. And then it seems like the Hound and his group of people are headed to Winterfell as well, because he saw the vision in the flame, whatever. So Luke, not on Arya. Obviously, the Hound is actually going to get killed by the Mountain because Brother's going to kill him.
Right.
But your thoughts on potentially Jon actually being who the prophecy is about, or maybe just how you think the series is going to wrap up.
Right. So first of all, I want to say that I loved this last episode. I think it was a whole bunch of like putting it all, we've had it all like laid out, and all the, like, the stage was set for 2 episodes, and it's like somebody just walked up to the table and shook everything and said, okay, now what's going to happen? Because we have a lot of things that we don't know now. Like, there's a lot of stuff planned and a lot of things happened, and it's like, okay, so now what's going to happen? I think, so first of all, Rachel and I were talking about, do you guys think that we will see, what's the big battle of this season? Are we going to see the big battle is the White Walkers, or the battle for Seven Kingdoms with Cersei? Which is this season, which is next season?
Well, we're setting up for a battle at Casterly, correct? I mean, we have the
Casterly Rock?
Casterly Rock, yeah.
They just did it.
No, but they took it over, but now they're sitting there and they have Euron's fleet on one side and then potentially Cersei's army on the other side.
No, so Cersei's army is at Highgarden. They're not. They walked down to Highgarden to take Highgarden.
Right, but so the way it felt to me is that they took Casterly, but they were basically allowed to take Casterly, and now they're just going to either starve them out or go back and retake it from them.
Well, that's what they said. They said, we pulled all the reserves, so they're going to starve. They're just going to leave, and we'll take it back when they leave. We left them no way back from the sea to leave, so they're going to have to march across Westeros to get back to where they need to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. That has to be something. So I think potentially there is battle left happening at Casterly Rock, especially if Euron just decides that he's going to storm the city. I think the big one is going to be Winterfell. I mean, honestly, I think that's what we're setting up for this season. So
you're thinking this season will be the battle of the Army of the Dead, and then next season we'll see the answer to the who sits on the throne.
That's exactly what I think it's going to be. Yes.
That's what I think too. Rachel thinks is the opposite. But okay, so to Arya, I think she will die. I don't think she'll be one of the last people left in the series. I don't hate her as much as Andrew for some reason. I never got that, I really liked her character. I really think she's gone through a lot of transformation, as far as like learning kind of that there's other things to do as a woman in the world than just, take up sewing and the, kind of the basic childish things that we saw her when we first met her. The Hound, I'm really interested to see what happens with him, as far as now he is seemingly a follower of the Lord of Light. And I want to see how that actually plays with the Red Witch. Is that what her name is?
Yeah, I mean, well, go ahead. It doesn't seem like she has much of a role left to play, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, she said she just said I'm gonna die in this strange land. That's I don't get to walk away. So she's still gonna be here. I'm interested to see, when John or when who's the guy that's with John at
Davos.
When Davos sees her, because he's gonna see her somehow. I'm interested to see what happens there.
So go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think you're right. It's John. We know John is a Targaryen. He's actually Daenerys's nephew. He's her aunt. She's his aunt.
Okay.
Which I thought they were brother and sister the way it worked out, but I realized that I was off by
a generation.
So it'll be interesting to see, like, once they realize that, once Bran tells him how that seemingly they have some sort of a understanding now, but there's still rivalry. So it'll be interesting to see, like, what shifts when they realize that they're actually family. I don't think we will see. I'm tending to agree more with Patrick, where she's getting a little bit too brave with her power, her seeming power, and we're seeing that kind of crumble. We're seeing what happened at Casterly. We saw what happened to Dorne and the Ironborn on the sea. We're seeing some of those hallmarks of her, like, power starting to wane and crumble. We've seen that Cersei might have a way to take out some of these dragons with these crossbows.
Which I think that's the other big thing is as much as she talks about the possibility out there, if you believe in it, which her saying she believes in herself, I feel like she's still a bit, or at least the people around her harp on the fact that, no one has beat an army that has 3 dragons. Well, Cersei's the one that believes she can. I mean, Cersei, sure, in that standpoint, is the person with maybe the greater belief in the possibility of what hasn't happened.
Yeah. So just to be clear, though, you both are completely writing off my idea.
Well, at least here's the thing. I'm not writing off. So I will say it would be very poetic for fire and ice, as it were, to rule together.
This is what I'm saying.
I'm not gonna to completely rule that out. I do not think that the prophecy is specifically about Daenerys. I think that we're gonna find out that isn't wholly true.
No. Just to be clear too, I was agreeing with you on that, and then I was adding to that what I hoped the series ended with. So I wasn't disagreeing. I think you're right.
I do not know who's going to be left standing. I honestly don't believe it's going to be the Hound, but I will say I think between Tyrion and Jaime, one of them have to kill Cersei. What just happened in this last episode with the Queen actually telling Jaime that she's the one that killed Joffrey, that lets Jaime know it wasn't Tyrion. So, because Jaime has believed it was Tyrion up until this point, now he knows he didn't. So Jaime already has a soft spot for Tyrion. I mean, even believing Tyrion could have done that, he still helped him escape. So Jaime has a soft spot. This is going to further kind of grow that. I think in the people that are ruthless, I think the fact is, I don't think Jaime can kill Cersei. I think if Jaime realizes he needs to, I don't think that he has shown that he has the kind of emotional fortitude to kill her. I think Cersei, if she ever feels like she needs to kill Jaime, she won't blink. I think that's the type of person we're setting up. I personally think Cersei's going to kill Jaime, and Tyrion will avenge Jaime's death.
Yes, I agree with that. It
could happen the other way. But I don't think. I think again, Jamie has more feelings than the other people in his family, and I don't think he's going to be able to bring himself to do what needs to be done. And I think Jamie can.
But how good would it be? How good would it feel to see the Hound standing up there with him? Like at the end of the day,
Not at all.
Listen,
like,
not at
I do
all.
like
old
I
griddle
like the
face
Hound.
made his way through, and,
Nope.
and he's finally good.
No.
Would you rather see Arya up there?
No, I don't want to see either one. I think we'll see John up there.
No, I'm not
That's
saying
it.
I'm not saying who we think we'll see. I'm saying like
Where's
that
Arya?
would make you
Where's
feel
Arya's
good.
dad buried?
No, it would not make me feel good.
Oh, I would love it. Oh, I'd love it. And if it happens,
Well, obviously.
I'm gonna take all y'all's money.
I like the Hound, but dude's getting pretty ragged. Like the next time he farts might end him. Like I don't even know that he's gonna make it to battle. He might just trip and fall, and he's like done. Like.
Oh gosh, that's good. Hey,
So,
I'm
anyway,
really
what about
interested-
what if it's Brienne and the leader of the Wildlings? What if they're the
I'd be
two
cool
on
with
the
that
board?
too.
Well,
I'd be
there-
cool. Yeah, I'd be cool.
They
with
might
that
be
too.
like doing it in a back room. I will say, Brienne could be the one that she could be the one that kills Jamie. On multiple times.
I want
way.
to see her kill Cersei.
But I want to see her and Jamie fight side by side. Personally,
I do too.
they have a connection.
I don't think they would. I don't think
wanna
they'd
see
fight
them
each
side by
other.
side.
Yeah, I don't think they'd fight each other. I think.
Well, she has literally said, "I will fight you," but
I know that, but
no,
I mean,
would
I,
like
I
to
don't
see a
think they
scenario
will.
where
I don't
they're
think
side by
that's.
side.
I don't think
Yeah.
that'll be there. That's not in their stars. Man,
There is
I
a
can't
lot
wait to,
of poetic justice being set up right now, though.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah. I agree. So I'm really happy with how this season is going. I'm really pleased with the pace at which the season is going. It saddens me in one regard, though, because it's like we are getting closer to the end. With every episode we watch, that is one less episode we have until this thing is done.
I mean, it's only 5 episodes left of the season.
I know. That's rough. I mean, that's a rough deal. So if you're with me, just hashtag M of One the Hound.
Like
and,
end of August. End of August, we're done.
Yeah, I think
With
it's the
this
4
season.
episodes, right?
It's 8 episodes.
Yeah. We
Oh,
just
I see.
finished episode
Whatever.
3.
That's fine. The
Yeah,
point
yeah.
is, yes, end of August, it's done. It's crazy. So anyway,
Not the whole show, just this season, and then we have 8 more.
yeah. And
just
then we
this
got
season,
one
though.
more next year. But in Westworld, they announced is
The
coming
other
out
thing,
in the spring.
okay, so
we
the
got
other thing
that.
that's still floating out there that I remember every like 2 or 3 episodes is this smoke baby. What is going on? What is it going to be? What's going to happen with it?
I don't think babies
Dragonstone,
should smoke. Is
where
the
the
thing.
smoke
I
baby
still
was
stand by
born.
that.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
I don't even remember. Nope.
The Red Witch, she gave birth to this
Demon
smoke monster
yeah,
baby.
I have no idea. There
How
is
long
stuff-
ago was that? What season was that? 2? 3?
Season 3 or 4
Someone
maybe.
was
Yeah, that's
bringing
way
up
too
the
long ago for me to remember.
blacksmith that was sent down river, and like I keep hearing these people
Yeah.
that we haven't like. What's Jack and Hagar up to? And I don't know. I
you
don't
know
know
who
if
I
these people are
don't
going to
care
get tied
about at
back
all?
in or not.
Sam's
Joris?
wife. I'm so glad she's not in this
Gilly?
season very much. Yeah,
Why?
yeah. Because I think she is so
She doesn't
annoying.
do
I
much.
think I think about her from the
What
perspective.
do you think about Sir Joris? Do you think Joris will make his way back?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, they set him up perfectly too in this last episode.
What if he takes on the Hound and kills the Hound?
Nah. I think they're gonna band together and that's what's gonna get the Hound there. It'll be
my
Tyrion
God.
to the right, and it'll be the Hound and Sir Joris holding hands on the
Shut
left
up.
side.
It's the ugliest lineup in the history of.
No, because then they're
Westeros.
only the ugliest flanking, but then you've got Jon Snow and Daenerys in the middle, and it just is this beautiful picture of a ragtag group. Anyway,
Daenerys won't be
we
there.
we have man, this is good. I like this because I don't feel like we're like hurting
Hey, if
anybody.
you stayed for spoilers and you didn't know any of this, you were warned. Just so you know.
Yeah, no one
That's
would
right.
have.
If,
I
if
guarantee
somebody
no one would have.
complains, just back off.
Just back off, everybody. But this was fun. I like being able to talk uninhibited by worry of whether or not someone's, and if someone, this is going to be slightly longer episode, I would imagine, and if someone stuck around to the end of this, that's fine because they're diehard people, and I'm sure they have ideas based on what we're saying. So let us know.
You win a bonus prize. Andrew's going to send you a Tyrion print. So just tweet.
You know what?
Say hashtag,
I'll do this.
Tyrion for the win.
The first 3 people who do, I will. I do have a few Tyrion prints left. So first 3 people who
hashtag Tyrion for the win.
Yep. FTW.
No, man, listen. Hashtag 10 good men. Do you remember that line from this episode? Basically, It was like when Tyrion was talking. It was like, what was it? Just give me 10 good men and I'll impregnate that or something like that. Yeah, you can. That's fine. You can cut it out. I lost it laughing there, and I of course also lost it laughing at just the introduction of Jon Snow. But
dude, oh my gosh, yes, there were so many laughable moments, but like good hearty chuckle moments in this episode. Not out of place, totally in the sphere of the contextually totally worked in the world. It wasn't like an Ed Sheeran sticking out in the middle, like a sore thumb. This was like it was such a well-rounded episode. I loved it so much. Oh my gosh, I could talk about Game
just
of Thrones for
hashtag something.
Hours.
It doesn't matter, but tweet at Andrew. First 3 people will get a print.
Yeah, you can have one, and I'll sign it whatever you want. Not my name though. Like I'll sign it anybody's name.
No, he's gonna literally sign it the words whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
As you wish. Wait, that's the wrong movie.
Yeah, that's the wrong one. Okay, I think that's it for this episode. If you stuck around, you win the prize of being great. And this was a fun one, so we're gonna get out of here. I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
And I'm Luke.
Peace out.
Bye.
Winter is here.
Oh my gosh. Okay, great. You sounded so stupid. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I have a dragon.
I have a dragon.